Yeah, so you wind up with situations where you have bands with a lot of black people that don't that aren't benefiting from a federalized system of support of creative endeavors first. You see what I'm saying? You have this situation where, you know, you'll have one artist that's just the hugest artist in the world, Beyonce, not to pick on Beyonce, or the one artist that's the hugest artist in the world, Jay-Z, or you know, just the lone person, you know, Wiz Khalifa, you know what I mean? I mean, you got Bruno Mars, even though he's got multiple band members, but still, it's Bruno Mars. You see what I'm saying? It's Christina Aguilera. It's, I mean, you had, what was that band with Adam Levine in it? You know, they tour around, but still, it's Adam Levine. See what I'm saying? And that's the situation that the mind controllers prefer. They don't want to have a bunch of people running around, especially that are connected to the indigenous spirit, doing creative things, because that can hurt them. Now, if you look at, say, for instance, the greatest education method ever founded in the world, the Waldorf education method, founded by the Austrian architect, scientist, artist, Rudolf Steiner. You see that the students that go to his schools, that wound up going out into the world to, you know, pursue their success, they're generally the most dynamic in every field. You know, if you really delve into the interviewing people in the engineering fields and the science fields, and I mean, if you were to go over to CERN, you know, the Large Hadron Collider over there in I guess that's Sweden or Norway or wherever it's at, and you were to interview all those people that work for CERN, you know, you'd find out that half of them went to the Waldorf school. You know what I'm saying? So, smartest minds there are. Now, so the Illuminati, the mind controllers, they don't want a system of federalized support of creative endeavors first. Because Einstein said that we live in a world where the creative mind is the gift. The analytical mind is the servant. But we flipped it, where we honor the servant and we forget about the gift. See, so that's their worst fear. Plus, people who are non-white, like I said before, they tend to be more esoteric. They tend to be more synthetic. They tend to be more naturally connected to the spirit. Now, in Egypt, you had the situation where it was called it was Ka, Ba, and La. Now, the current Hermeticists, or people in the secret societies, they try to expound on shit like they're so fucking amazingly understanding of all this stuff. But if you notice, those people are always young and they understand all this shit that they don't. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. You see, so they'll say, you know, Ka, Ba, and La means this or whatever, when it's just pretty simple. Ka means the soul. That means soul, like James Brown. I know you got soul, you know what I mean. And then Ba, which means spirit. So that's the soul connected to the spirit. And then La is the individual soul. So you got soul as a thing, Ba as the spirit, which is what you connect to, and then La, which is a result, and that is a spiritual soul connected to the spirit. Okay. But they make it all complex, like they know every fucking thing, because they like to use analysis. instead of creativity first. Okay, that's just how they are, and that's fine, whatever. But Reagan, getting back to that, Reagan would have hated all of that. See, because remember, Reagan was a Hollywood actor. Now, according to the Scuttle, he was a pretty good Hollywood actor, but pretty much all of Hollywood sucks, especially back in the day. Now, there's no doubt, you get some movies that are just unbelievable. You get some directors that they got a beat on it. They know what's going on, and they're able to produce their craft to us impeccably, and it's unbelievable, and it just touches your heart. There's no doubt about it. But for the most part, Hollywood is bullshit, and it just fucking sucks. You remember Public Enemy made that song, "Burn Hollywood, Burn." You know what I mean? And we call it today on the internet, we call it Hollyweird. And it's so true. You know what I mean? But so Reagan was part of the Hollyweird crowd, because basically the movies that he made back in the day were basically B-type Western films. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, Reagan was such a good actor. Oh, he was such a great actor." He fucking sucked. Okay, I mean, you know what I mean? You got to remember, these are the same. You come from the same genre of person that would say John Tesh was an amazing musician. I mean, can you sit through a fucking John Tesh concert? Okay, that's what I thought. So, basically, Reagan, to get back on point, Reagan would have despised black males because of the fact that his wife would have been sleeping with him. Reagan would have wanted to have power, just like the Satanist that he was. Once again, this Ronald, 6 letters, Wilson, 6 letters, Reagan, 6 letters. His son adopts the opposite side of the argument. The liberal spectrum. So you've got one over here, way over here on Mars, on the right side of the spectrum, and you've got the other one way over here on Pluto, on the liberal side of the spectrum. But they only want to control the outcome. And what is the desired outcome? The desired outcome is to eliminate the American middle class, because what does that do? That eliminates the financial base of the black male. And that's all they're looking to do. And the one thing that's true about white supremacists, and especially Satanists, white supremacist Satanists, is they will kill 1,000 white people to get one black man, one black person. That's what they'll do, because they really want to get that black person, and they don't give a flying heck about using as many white people as they got to do to get that person, because that one black person with that spiritual power, with that creative power, is the one that can stop them. And they know all that. Now, how do they know that? The Rockefeller Foundation done all these studies for years and years and years and years and years on indigenous cultures, indigenous people. And there's all these books you can get from the Rockefeller Foundation studying, this different indigenous group, that different indigenous group, this different indigenous group, blah, 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 blah. And what they found out is that the indigenous groups, that's non-whites, can actually they actually know how to cure white people of fragmentation. What is fragmentation? Fragmentation is anger and let's just say they can cure them of anger, being angry and fragmented. I won't say the other words because it's kind of strong, but they can cure them of anger and fragmentation. And they can create a situation where even a white person can become whole. And the word whole is the precursor to the term holy, you see. And so it wasn't in the far past that wasn't the case. But then certain people came along and learned from indigenous cultures like the psychiatrist, probably the world's greatest psychiatrist, Carl Jung. He learned from the indigenous cultures about how to actually cure white people of fragmentation and anger on the inside. He learned how to cure them of that and to create a situation where they were harmonious and whole on the inside. See? And that's the reason why. So on one hand, the corporate system wants to use the Jungian determination of psychological constructs through their the tests that they give people for personality tests, for personality assessments. But then on the other hand, they want to disparage the Jungian system of psychological analysis because it creates a situation where white people are no longer ill mentally. See, so the less white people there are mentally ill, the less the system of mind control is able to control everybody else, because it's less people to trigger, it's less people to goad into negative, self-interested activity based on fear. See, so Reagan was just the complete model of what they would have wanted. You know, he's a quote unquote, he's charismatic, you know. And behind the scenes, people that work for Reagan, like the intelligence community people and the FBI and the CIA and the secret society and the secret government people, they loved him. They said he was just fantastic. But he also was just a lying person. He was a lying, evil person. I mean, Reagan actually started, he's the one that started the war on terror. He's the one that perpetuated the war on terror. He is the one that funded he's the one that funded what's called the Mujahideen Network, which is a fundamentalist religious Islamic network. And he funded those under the guise of quote unquote fighting communism and the Soviets. But and then what did that do? That in turn gave impetus to the completely harmless ancient Taliban running around with about 6 people in the group, you know, riding their horses around Afghanistan, you know, or whatever, you know, and all of a sudden Reagan funds it and it gives impetus back to it. What does that do? That creates Al-Qaeda. Okay, now we got a real fundamentalist terrorist network, all right, which is of some sort. And later on, as time went on down the road, that gave impetus to ISIS. Now, Nancy Reagan, after Reagan died, you know, because Reagan was caught up in the Iran-Contra scandal, which was supposedly down in Nicaragua. You had the Sandinistas and you had the rebels or whatever. So you had the Sandinistas who were the rebels, and then you had the other side, which was the side that Reagan supported. I think if I got it right, whatever. But anyway, whatever side Reagan supported, they couldn't get the funding to be totally through Congress to be transparent. So what they did was they sold weapons to the Iranians to fund that campaign, as well as to fund some of the campaigns over in the Middle East. You see, and they got caught because Oliver North got caught, and Oliver North got there. You know, he lied to Congress, and you know, and the way they always justify it is, you know, oh, it's for the greater good. Oh, we had to do it. It's plausible deniability. Oh my God, we had to do this. It's in the interest of national security, you know, and it's just total nonsense. So, so Reagan's wife, Nancy, after he died, she had a 60 Minutes interview. I remember this interview. It was a few years after he died, and she was asked point blank, did Ronnie know about the Iran-Contra scandal, even though they lied, blah, blah, blah. And she said, she looked straight in the camera and she said, you don't get away with anything. And she was talking about the karma, that Reagan had from having Alzheimer's, because Reagan started talking about it in public after he had Alzheimer's. He started telling on himself, and they had to get him out of the public eye and keep people from interviewing him, because he would tell the truth about it, because he couldn't remember a lot. So basically, Reagan was without a doubt a Satanist. He was without a doubt just completely afraid of black men. And he used his presidency to try to get even with them, because his wife was sleeping with black men. See what I'm saying? And that's a big construct, motif, model in the world today. You know what I mean? I mean, like, it's the old "let's get them before they get us" situation. And then came along, after Reagan, you had Clinton, who was kind of black, and that was a test market, and they just didn't like that, So when Barack Obama became president, every single person that's white in America, and they see Barack Obama standing up there in front of them on that podium as president, the white women are thinking, oh, okay, it's okay to sleep with black guys now, he's the president. And white men are thinking, oh my God, they're gonna, that guy has a black penis, and if they get our women pregnant, then that's the end of us, which is true. And ultimately, no matter, at this point, it was like Don Lewis said back in the 80s, it's fat, rich, and happy time. So while the white man was wallowing in his wealth, the black male and the white woman were busy either esoterically, which is energetically, or directly establishing a contact with each other that could never really be usurped, could never really be stopped. So at this point, what we're watching is, there's a saying that goes, when the dragons